Hey, I think I'm ready to go. Hey, everyone, thanks for joining. So I just made this video because I have a few friends and family members who, reached out to me in the past few weeks. Because they wanted to get started with art. So they were like really wanted to know like how do they get started with it? What do they need to know? And if they're gonna do it as a career, what are the pitfalls and how long does it take to get good? To get a job and so on. And usually these conversations they like go on for like hours because there is some stuff that you need to know before you get started with something like this. So like when you're learning a piece of software, the learning curve is quite simple. Like you have to understand what the software does, how it works, what are the shortcuts, and after that it's just a matter of putting it into use like every single day. And once it gets part of your day-to-day workflow, then you're done. Yeah, and this only takes a matter of like 2 to 3 weeks. But art, it does have a little bit more of a longer learning curve. And there are some stuff and things you need to know before you decide to make it as your career. So I thought like, putting this video together would be useful for people like you who you are planning to, doing art for in the long run. So of all the things that I learned in the past 5 years, doing art, I thought I condense a little bit of that to people who, want to get started. I hope this video really is useful for you. Okay, so with that, we'll just quickly get started with this video today. So I'll just move to Photoshop. So here's basically what we're going to be talking about. So my journey, what is art, and so and so. Okay, so first we'll be talking about my journey, who I am. So and why I made this video, of course. So I'm a full-time artist. I work as an illustrator for a business firm. And after my day job, I do my own personal paintings, my digital art and stuff like that. Sell a print, make videos and stuff like that. So this is basically what I do for a living, full-time artist. And I started this around like 2015. So around 2015 was the time when I decided that art is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So I did do a little bit of drawing in school and in college, but I was never really good at it. Like I had no formal training, so I just drew for like a kid. I just drew what I saw, and that's basically the way I was taught to draw even in college. Like you just to observe how the thing looks and just put it on paper. We weren't given any formal education like what is perspective, like what is anatomy, and what is gesture and stuff like that. So, but around 2015, online training really started to pick up. We had YouTube, we had some brilliant uh, training material up on YouTube, like the Proco videos and Jazza, and the training was starting to get so good that you didn't need to go to college anymore. Training is already there. It's just a matter of sitting and listening and putting it in practice. So 2015, as you can see, the work was not so great, and I just started putting in a lot of hard work, a lot of training time, and today I'm quite happy with where my work is standing now. I do still have a long way to go. Like there's still a ton of things to learn, and of course you just learn one at a time. One at a time. The learning really never stops. You just keep getting better. There's no like plateau. In art, that's the best one of the good and bad things about it. There is no plateau. You keep getting. You only keep getting better, and you can also keep getting worse. Uh, it all depends on the amount of practice that you put in. So that's my work up till now, and more on that later. We'll talk about hard work and all that at a later stage. So this is basically what I do. I'm a full-time artist, illustrator, and I do my own personal paintings as well, and they're all available for free. Okay, so moving on. Okay, so this is the first topic at hand that we're going to talk about today. So, what is art? So, we all, we call a lot of things art. So, we call dancing as an art, acting is an art, movies are art. So, if all they are all art, then what is art in, general? We generally call all these things art, but what do we, why are these all these things called art in the first place? So the way I look at it, there's a lot of definitions to what is art, but one that works for me is I call art as a language, and it's not nothing original about that. A lot of people, yeah, they see art as a language. That's, in my opinion, a very good way to look at it. Art is it's a visual language. Okay, what do exactly do I mean by that? So art's a visual language because, okay, if you can just Google this thing called the Chawai Cave. The Chawai Cave, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I think it's from France. So there's this Chawai Cave in France where they discovered the oldest cave paintings ever discovered by man. These are like, before language was even invented. Like, the first cave paintings made by man. And come to think about it, what exactly are you seeing here? So basically, they couldn't even speak at the moment. They couldn't even communicate with another person through another language at the moment. And that's one reason why they drew. They drew because they wanted to communicate to the people after them what they saw. These drawings could mean anything. They could mean a ritual. Maybe they were just drawing what they saw, but in all, they're just trying to communicate something. And that, I think, is the true meaning of art. Whether you intend it or not, your drawings are always communicating something to the viewer, even if you didn't intend it to. Maybe you're thinking that I'm just drawing a coffee cup. For you, that's the thing. But when a other person sees it, what exactly did he mean by this coffee cup? Is it a metaphor for something? Or does is it a magical coffee cup? Or every single mark you make, every single pencil stroke that you make, it's more like the alphabet of a language. So that's how you. I think it's the best way to think about art. Everything you do as a as an effect. Every mark you make has an effect on the person, whether you intend it or not. And your ability to control that meaning, to exactly create the meaning that you intended with your art. Now that's the meaning of a professional artist. Uh, Having so much control over your skills that you're able to convey exactly what you're trying to say. For let's talk about Shakespeare. Shakespeare, he wasn't Shakespeare the day he was born. He just didn't The day he was born, he didn't start spilling out awesome vocabulary and awesome poems. It took him a certain amount of time to first learn the English language, like, top to bottom. He learned it, and he learned it, and he mastered it so well that he was able to convey beautiful stories and so many beautiful literature out of his that's his art. That's English is his art. It's his communication. It's the way for him to communicate his ideas, his poetry, his stories, and so and so. And with art, we are trying to do the exact same thing, except we are not exactly spelling it out. We are not like speaking it out. We are drawing it. We are making a visual statement. We are more like visual poets. Yeah, that's the way to look at it. We are visual poets. We don't exactly use syllables and letters. We use shapes, forms, and we draw things to convey an idea, convey a poem. Look how beautiful this apple is, or beautiful this woman is, or look how beautiful the sun and trees are. And that was something what Bob Ross was trying to do. Bob Ross, if you Google him, he painted a lot of landscapes, and in his YouTube, you can find him on YouTube. And that's basically what he's trying to convey with this song. Every single beautiful thing that he's seen in nature, the trees, the water, and everything. That's what his art is trying to communicate. So that's basically what art is. It's a visual language, and it's our in our training we try to get good at at this language so well that we are effortlessly able to communicate our ideas to other people. So yeah, that's one of the best ways to describe art. I'm sure there's a ton of other ways to describe it. I personally find this one personally fitting for me. Yeah. So moving on. Okay, learning to draw and paint. Okay, so we are going to talk about learning to draw and paint, and little few things about what I learned about that. So first and foremost, the most common pitfall everyone makes when starting to learn to draw and paint, and when I say everyone, that includes me as well. And 2015, when I decided that I'm going to be an artist, the first thing that I tried to learn was anatomy. That was just plain wrong. I didn't know how to draw a simple cube in 3D. Couldn't, in perspective. And I thought like that's what all anatomy is, what all art is about. If I can learn anatomy, I can simply draw everything. I can, draw people. I can, draw everything. And that's not at all how it works. So the first pitfall is to start learning anatomy too early. You don't need to worry about anatomy when you begin with art. That's when learning structure comes in. So what do I mean by learning structure? So yeah, art education first we begin with first we have to train your eyes. And what do I mean by that is, so when you're starting to learn art, these are the things that you need to know. So you need to you you need to understand what forms you need to understand what form is. Okay, so what is form? Form is basically, so you have a lot of stuff lying in your room, right? Your coffee cup, your laptop, and stuff like that. So form is able to, visualize things into simple shapes. So let's say if I'm looking at a coffee cup. So a coffee cup, what I can visualize, I can, instead of drawing a coffee cup, I can instead draw a simple, sphere, a simple circle. And if I cut the top portion of the sphere, I'll just cut it halfway. And then I add a small, ring to it, ring-like structure. So this is what basically form means. First, I drew a simple sphere, and I'm able to cut that sphere in half, and turn it into the object that I. So this is basically the idea of form is. So this applies to everything. So let's say if I want to draw a face. So face again, I start with the same sphere, or in this case, an egg shape. No, this is not exactly a sphere; it's an egg. And then I'll probably add a box for the chin and jaw. And then yeah, so I'm quickly able to draw a head. But did I draw a head? No. First, I just drew a simple sphere, and then I added a box. Added a simple box shape. And on top of all that, I'm able to add in the hair and the other, details. So this is how you basically should draw. So when we start to draw, when we start to paint, we first observe the simple ideas, the simple shapes. Everything in life, everything that you see in life, doesn't matter if it's a human body or, if it's a man-made machine, or maybe you're just drawing a landscape, mountains and trees. No matter what you're drawing, all this can be drawn with these three simple shapes: a triangle, a sphere, and a cube. So this would be basically what you'll be learning in your first intro to drawing course in all your online training and any good art school. This is the first thing that they'll be teaching you, that everything in life, everything that you possibly can see, all this can be broken down into simple shapes. The triangle, the sphere, and the cube, and this forms the basis for everything. So this forms the basis for drawing and for painting. When you move on to painting, you're not going to be painting faces or painting objects. You're going to be painting these simple forms. First you should learn to draw the cube, and then you should, when you're going to into painting, you'll learn to render the cube. So where the shadows are in, and stuff like that. So this is the same process in drawing as well as in painting. So I know I'm rushing a little bit here, but this is basically what form is. Form is breaking down everything that you see into simple structures, like simple structure like a cube or a sphere or a triangle. And you can of course mix and match this. So you can mix a cube shape with a sphere shape, because that's how life works, right? So life just merges everything. So yeah, what else can we draw? So everything that you see here, it's simple forms, simple shapes. So here this is just a cylinder. For the pan for the plant pot, I just used a simple cylinder shape. So, this is how a cylinder looks, right? So instead of keeping straight lines here, I just like added converging lines here. A little bit converging. Then I just close the lid, and you just put the plants on top. These are just simple shapes. So this is basically how you should look at drawing. And so when you're drawing or painting, the first thing to know is this is the first thing that you need to learn. When you're learning to draw, painting comes afterwards. So the first step, even if you're trying to become a painter, the first process is learning to draw. You need to be a good artist, like a good drawer, a draftsman. For a lack of better word, I draw. So basically, you need to be able to draw well if you're gonna paint well. So think of painting as level two of drawing. Painting is just the next step. Like first you become a prince, and then you become king. So prince, as a prince, you're young, you're learning, you're getting wise, you're learning a lot of things, and once you learned all the stuff you need to know, then you become king, ready to rule. It's more of something like that. So the first basis is to learn to draw. Learning to draw simple shapes like the cube, the sphere, and the triangle, the pyramid, and learning to break down everything that you see using these symbols. So this is the first structure. This is what you need to learn first, and then you move on to painting. So yeah, just we so that's point number one. You need to understand what form is. This is basically what form is. Breaking down every single thing that you see into simple shapes like a sphere or a cube. Okay, second thing that you need to learn is perspective. So perspective, again, it's the scariest word in art, in all of art. And fairly so, because perspective, it breaks you away from the all the fun creative part of everything, like drawing fairies and dragons, and puts you into a more technical thing. uh, 1 point perspective, 2 point perspective, 3 point perspective. But trust me, if you don't learn perspective, you're not gonna go very far with your art. Your art is not gonna look good at all. Perspective is the use of space. How space works. Like when an object is closer, if an apple is closer to your eyes, it looks bigger. And when you move the same apple away from you, it starts getting smaller. So this is how vision works. This is how space works. And this we tried to bring this framework to our art. To make our art look realistic, it should also obey the rules of vision. Like, as things go far away, they get smaller. These are some of the rules of vision, and this is what perspective is. Apply a perspective helps you, to bring depth to your artwork, and that's why we learn it. And this is most often people don't learn this. People don't really, that includes me as well. There was a time where I only drew portraits. I only drew simple figure drawings, because those are not, that's not really a lot of perspective involved in that. But I also saw how limiting it was on my work. I mean, I couldn't draw landscapes well. I couldn't draw environments well. That's because I lacked the knowledge in perspective. So I took like, 6 months to a year to really sit down and, start, taking it seriously and putting in the time towards it. And it has done wonders to my artwork. And, your art starts looking immediately a lot more cooler once you can do things with perspective. Like in cinema, so there are many shots where you have the wide angle shots, and you have the close up shots. And if you want to do a wide angle shot, yeah, you want to show a city like that's super wide, and it's so big and vast. And if you want to show that, you need to learn perspective, especially if you're planning on becoming a storyboard artist. If you want to work with a director, and the director says, for this shot, for this frame, I want like a 50 shot, or I want a close-up shot, or I want a wide landscape shot. If he's trying to, he'll just tell you like show this as a long shot, show this as a 25 shot. You as the storyboard artist should understand what exactly he means by that. When he's saying like a wide angle shot, you have to understand like how perspective works, like how many vanishing points are there. For a wide angle shot, I would go with 4 to 5 vanishing points. And I'm not gonna of course explain this here because it's a little bit beyond our scope for today, so more on that later. So but basically, without perspective you can't do environments. If you plan on doing only close-up portraits and just figure drawings for the rest of your life, and many people do that, that's fine. But even then, to draw the ones, what happens when that that portrait is a little tilted? What if I tilt my head upwards, I know a little sideways? Even then perspective is still at work. You simply can't run away from it, and one point or the other you will have to put in the work to learn it. So perspective, I think, is basically the keystone, yeah, to all art. It's simply, you can't avoid it. You have to learn it. There's simply no other way around it, and it is fun. Once you understand how it works, it can really skyrocket your art into you can start looking at things in very different angles, and it gives you a lot of room to play around with. So that's basically what you need to learn, perspective. So that's number two. So let's sum up here. So form and perspective. These are the first two things that you need to learn before moving on into and you learn this with applying these concepts to day-to-day objects. You understand how to draw a simple pot plant, and you should also be able to do it in any perspective. You should be able to draw it in any angle that you want. So this is also the basis for drawing from your imagination. If you learn perspective, you don't need photo reference anymore. You can draw anything that's in your head in perspective and form. You can make it look believable only if you learn perspective. So that's the first steps to it. And what else? So once you're done with this, then comes light. So light. So once you're able to draw the, the potted plant, or, the simple object, the simple, a simple box, you have to understand how light works, what shadow shapes are, and, what light is, what reflected light is, what bounce light is, ambient occlusion, and stuff like that. So this is the part where, you need to learn to make your drawings look realistic. We all love light. We all love, making our paintings look super realistic. And this is this is what you need to understand light. And a large amount of your practice time would be dedicated to this. So I'm just, we're not going to delve too deep for today on that, but this is basically what you'll be learning next, light. And the third one is, I think, everyone's favorite, anatomy. So, so basically, you learn form and perspective. You are able to visualize everything in 3D, every simple object. You can draw any cylinder box in 3D, and you can also render it. You can paint it and render it in perfect light. If you're able to do these two things, just like that, then you're ready to learn anatomy. So anatomy is something you will, it's not like you just do it, you learn it for like 6 months and you just close it, that's done. Because anatomy is a very deep topic, and there are people there are artists even today who literally spend their entire careers just teaching anatomy alone. Because it is that deep. The human body is amazing. There's so many, nuances about it. And the learning, again, the more you keep learning it, it's like a black hole. There's so much stuff you can learn. You can keep learning about it. But you also need to understand that you don't need to be, a medical surgeon. You don't need to have that level of information, to make a good figure drawing. The one thing that you must know to do is, gesture. So you should understand what gesture is. That beautiful everything nature has created. Me, you, and plants, everything, trees, everything has their own gesture. They're never, perfectly straight. Like a man-made laptop or a man-made machine, it's all mechanical. They're usually made of, strong vertical lines. They're just stiff. Basically, if I'm a man-made puppet, I'm just stiff. I'm not at all. I'm perfectly stiff. But if I'm a human being, I'm a breathing man-made, nature-made object. I'm, really, I have curves. Like, everything nature has made it's made of, mostly curves. This line, if I hold out my hand, you can see that, it's not perfectly straight. It has a curve to it. Like, that's this beautiful as curve to it. And this is the idea behind gesture. So anything organic, anything that is made by nature, you have to keep in mind when you're drawing a hand or drawing a human figure or drawing a portrait. You have to keep in mind the gesture that there is a curve acting behind it, and that's basically the idea of gesture. Again, that's we can always go deeper on that a little later. So that's the first concept that you need to grasp when you start learning anatomy. And then, of course, the muscles. Muscles. Okay, no, before the muscles, you have to learn the bone structure. So, first, the bone structure. So, the bones are basically the armature. So, all our muscles and skin are, sit on top of the bones. So, when you're learning anatomy, the first thing you need to learn is the human skeleton. How it works, what are joints, and how each joint moves, how limited is our movement. Our bones can only, move our arms a certain distance, and after that, it can't. So we need to learn those limits. We need to learn what is, supination and pronation. So what does, supination and pronation mean? And stuff like this. So once you learn the bone structure, then you can start adding the muscles on top. Third is the muscles. This is basically the point where you start watching all the Proco videos and start binging on them, and He's, the go-to resource to learn anatomy. All the bones, if you want to learn the bone structure and the muscles, Proco is, of course, one of the best out there. And apart from Proco, I also strongly recommend Michael Hampton. Michael Hampton, he's also wonderful. I think he has his own YouTube channel, and he has a book, analytical figure drawing. It's such a wonderful book, and it's a slightly different approach towards drawing anatomy, but it's always the one that's worked for me. So I'll just type it down to Michael Hampton. Really super recommend him. Analytical figure drawing. Can Google and check it out. It's really good. Okay. So this is basically what your timeline looks like. So first you learn form and perspective. You're able to visualize any object, any complex object, car, pot plants. Again, we talked about all this. You're able to visualize all those complicated stuff into simple, spheres, boxes, and pyramids, triangles. That's form and perspective. Second is light. You're able to apply light to them. You're able to draw perfect shadow shapes and bounce light, reflected light, and so on. You can make a sphere look realistic with light. So that's the second concept you'll be learning. Third, again, of course, is anatomy and drawing different. All this will take you around a minimum of 4 to 5 years. So this is what I was doing from 2015 to 2020. So this is the complicated. There's a beautiful saying by Devin Corbin. He's another wonderful illustrator on social media, and his learning stuff is also great. He says that the stuff, the the sea of knowledge in art is not exactly wide. It's actually quite small. It's not exactly wide as you think. The thing is, it's so deep. It's not exactly wide. It's not like a huge sea or river. It's actually quite small. The number of things you need to learn to make art is quite small. The problem is it's too deep. Even though it's a small sea, a small river, it's a very very deep river. So that's absolutely true. That's a wonderful way to put it. And as you can see, there's basically just two, three things here. It's not much. But the thing is, it's so deep. It starts branching out. Uh, and there are a lot of nuances to it. And that's why, these things take a lifetime to master. And, it takes quite a lot of practice to get used to them. So I wish you good luck with that. So I hope this was useful. So if you have any questions regarding this, of course, I know we have run through this. We sped it up a little bit here. But if you have any further questions, please feel free to, drop a comment or, let me know. So moving on quickly to the next one. Do I need talent? Okay, so this is another question that I usually get asked. And, do I need talent to be an artist? Art is not for me, I don't have talent. And sometimes I used to think the same. Like, when I tried to draw in school and college, when I sucked at it, I thought I just didn't have that gene. I didn't, have the magic gene. My parents didn't give me that, that talent. Or, God didn't give me that magic hand. Like, I can draw anything. And that's what I used to think about people who could actually draw. I thought that, they had some magic within them. Not everyone can draw. But once I started learning about art, I learned that's absolutely not true. So anybody can learn to draw. Drawing, again, it's like a language. A baby, the day it's born, it can't speak everything like, from day one. It starts with the simple words, mama, dada, simple words. And as you get older, and as it tries to speak every day, it becomes second nature to you. You don't need, nobody knows your native language better than you. Because you learned it, you've spoken it so much that you don't have no longer think about it before speaking. That's the same with art. When you're first starting out, you're a child. You start with the your drawings don't look so good. You're not able to, pronounce it well. But with practice, with everyday practice, you're able to, speak that language, clearly. And language again, everyone speaks a language. You might not be the smartest person in the room, but you can still speak. And which means that, art as a language can be learned by anyone, and you don't require any magic or special uh, ritual to learn it. So the simplest way to look at talent is, so you have to understand what talent means. Talent is not exactly something you're born with, it's something that you give yourself. What I mean by that is talent is passion plus hard work. The one thing that's lacking in most people is not exactly talent, it's this one, passion. Passion is the one that you need, and that I think is fair to say not everyone has that, because many people, my native language is Tamil, and I might know there's no necessity for me to learn Japanese, but I do have the passion for Japanese. One day I do want to learn it, and that's not the same for everyone. Many people would not want to learn Japanese, they want to learn Swahili, and that's their passion towards Swahili. Maybe they wanted to learn African. That's basically what passion is. And passion is our fuel. It's what's, this is our fuel. So passion is what drives me. Talent is, there's no such thing as talent. There's only passion. Basically doing loving what you're doing. That every single day of training, I loved it. I still do. Every single day when I'm learning something new and not, I just love it. I love how diverse it is. I love how deep it always goes, and that's why regardless of what happens, maybe I won't be the greatest artist ever. Uh, you know, um, I won't have a huge social media following and stuff like that. But it does. None of the things matter because I still love it. It's so fun. It's like, playing a video game. You don't, why do you play a video game? Because, you're good at it? No, there's tons of people who can play that game better than you. But you still play it because you love it. It's fun. And, that's basically what passion means, having the love for it. So loving it no matter what. That's the way you need to approach your art no matter what heights you reach. You might be the greatest artist ever, but if you're not passionate about what you do, you will bound to fail eventually. So, make sure that you don't lose your love towards what you do, no matter what you do, not just art in general. So that's basically the secret sauce, passion. So passion can't be taught. I can't teach anyone how to be passionate. Passion has to come from you. And only if you have the passion, you'll have the, perseverance to, to put in the hard work and, to actually get better at things. So, if you're passionate, I have no doubt that you will succeed. So, yeah. So, talent, I would say, don't worry about talent. You don't need talent. You only need passion. And is passion enough? No, not exactly either. A lot of people are passionate, but a lot of people are also lazy. That includes me. So, it's okay to love something. Yeah, it's not enough to love something. You also have to be very disciplined, because art can get boring, you know, can get difficult. Not boring per se, but difficult. And some days there might be days where you just don't want to draw, and maybe I can just, watch that movie, or, watch that TV show or play that game. This is what laziness is. And I go through that phases as well. And nobody's perfect, of course, and it's okay to play that game every now and then. It's okay to watch that movie now and then, but just don't overdo it. It's not enough to just love art. You have to put in the work, and that requires discipline. You have to be willing to work at art even when you don't feel like doing it. So, discipline, I would say, in many ways, it's again more important than passion. If you're disciplined in general life, you will go a long way, regardless if you have passion or not. So, I would say, discipline is on top of that scale. So if you're having a race, it's one, two, three. So first is, of course, always is discipline. Okay, I can't spell discipline. That's right. Second one is passion. Third is basically like a ghost, it's non existent. Talent. You know what? There is no number three. In my world, talent, I don't think it's true. There's only passion and discipline. So, yeah, that's that. So, that's all you need to know about this talent. And, don't believe anyone if they told you that you don't have the genes, you don't have, your parents should be artists for you to be. All that is not true. You only need to be passionate and you need to be disciplined. You need to put in the work. That's how simple art is. It's a language. Anybody can learn a language and anybody can learn it. It's, bottom line. Okay. Odd jobs. Okay. So once I learn all this, once I'm, comfortable with all the art technical stuff and everything, how do I get a job? So, in the art world, once you're, good enough, first you need to, make a portfolio. You need to have a portfolio of killer works. Your work needs to be, really on the level, really on the money, needs to be on the mark. And once you have that, you have several options. You have several things that you can do as a living with art. So, of all those several things, the first I would say is, a concept artist. Concept artist, and this usually branches out into a few other things. Like, a character designer, designer, or environment artist, prop artist. So the first is, of course, concept artist. So all the movies that you see, all the games that you play, has a ton of concept artists working on them. So let's take the movie Avatar. The Avatar movie, so we are talking about a world that doesn't exist. Pandora doesn't exist. It all exists in, James Cameron's mind. So when he has all these stuff in his mind, he goes to a concept artist to visualize the world. He gives inputs to the concept artist. Okay, so there's this, in Pandora, there's this, huge winged dinosaur, and which has two horns and huge wings, and it's blue in color and stuff like that. These are the inputs that he generally gives to a concept artist, and a concept artist's job is to create ideas, create visualizations of how that that dinosaur or that world can look. So your job as a concept artist is to visualize ideas. You know that can be either a character, that can be an environment, or that can be a prop. When I say prop, so think about a magic sword. So I have this character who has this magic sword that can if you stab people with it, um, they become zombies. Maybe it's a zombie sword. So how does this zombie sword look? So that would be a job of a concept artist. So that's really fun, and that's one of the things that you get to do as a concept artist. And second one is an illustrator. An illustrator is basically my job. Illustrator, you can so you can be working on a lot of things. So you can work on magazines, newspapers. So, for example, in your local newspaper or in a magazine, So let's say there was so the hot story of the day: gambling has been banned in this city. So if this is the headline, you'll be required to, draw a visual image to show, a bunch of gamblers being arrested because gambling is, has been made illegal. So to communicate this message to the reader, the newspaper company would want you to, to draw an image. So basically, illustrate. You illustrate an idea. So they have this concept, they have this message that they want to, get out to the masses. And your job is to, to create an illustration that communicates that idea. So that's your job as an illustrator. So that's another way, perfectly great way to, make a living. And so these two are basically jobs. There might be a lot of other jobs as an you can get to do as an artist, but these are the two main things out there. So apart from this, to make money with your art, you can of course become a freelance artist. Freelance. You can, if you have your own set of clients, if you have your own set of peers who are, wanting work from you, maybe nobody does caricatures better than you. Now that would be a great way to make some, money, to make a living. So you can get a lot of freelance work for caricature work, or, can you do my family portrait? Can you do my dog's portrait? Can you do this wedding portrait for my friend? So that's some of the things that you can do as a freelance artist. And you can also do concept art and illustrations as freelance as well. You don't need to go sit in a company as a job to do this. You can just get it from a, depends on where you're living in. The place where I'm living in India, you don't get to do a lot of that. At least I don't. But if the art world is, really active in the place where you're living in the United States, for example, you can get a ton of work in freelance. And the fourth one is teaching. Teaching is again an excellent way to make a living. So art is always in the lookout for good teachers. I think each teacher won't teach you the same thing other teachers do, because there's plenty of way to teach art. There's not one perfectly calculated, formulated way of learning art. That if you learn it this way, you're guaranteed to become a very good artist. There's so many approaches to art. All, um, different teachers have different ways of teaching things. For example, I look at art as a language, and another person may look at it in a better way. Maybe that way is, more relatable to you. So, art, I think, can never run short of teachers. We always need good teachers in art. Good artist doesn't, if you're a good artist, doesn't generally mean that you can also be a good teacher. Because teaching is a different process. Teaching is, compressing something you already know and, sending it and transferring it to another person in a way that's understandable to them. This is a complicated process. So to be a good teacher requires a, different set of skills. So that's a perfectly good way to, to make a living with art. So teaching, you can do it, of course, online. You can do your own YouTube channel. You can start your own school and stuff like that. So these are basically some ideas of, making a living with art. So again, there's a lot more to this. I just added the first few things that usually you can get started with. So I hope again it's useful to you. So moving on, family and support. So yeah, family. So especially when you're choosing art as a career choice, there'll be a lot of time where, especially if you started out old as me. So 25 is it's a quite a busy time in a person's life. Where, you might be getting married, you might be, working hard at work, or, you might have a tough living situation with your family and stuff like that. And when you're doing all that and you're also trying to learn art, it can be a really tough thing to do. So that's when, you need your family's support and understanding. Thankfully, I have my family, my wife, and, my family who are very understanding of the work that I do. They know that I can't attend every single wedding, or we can't go out much, or we can't binge watch a movie together, because you have to put in the time to learn. And you have to sit down with your family and tell them, like, try to help them understand that that you can't spend as much family time, or recreational time, because you need more time to to put into your art. And you need to sit down and do this with them, so that they're well informed, and they know that why you're doing it. And yeah, and that's something you will need other people's support as well to become a good artist. It's not a one man journey. Your family will need to support you as well. So make sure you are always keeping your family in the loop. Make sure you help them understand what you're trying to do, why you always have to stay up late, and why you're always spending so much time drawing, painting, and stuff like that. Because of course they worry for you, and of course you become possessed, and they will worry about you, and it's your job to to make sure that you explain it to them, and keep them informed. So yeah, that's something that I just wanted to talk about on family and support. And quickly moving on to social media. Ah, social media has completely revolutionized everything, especially the art industry. So a thing about perspective, before perspective was discovered, when perspective was discovered, a lot of people, a lot of artists didn't accept it. They felt, it took away the creativity in art. They rejected it outright. They said that, perspective is not necessary to make beautiful art, and, it took a long time for people to, to come together and accept it as a, really important element in art. And nothing revolutionized art more than the discover. One of the things that really revolutionized art is perspective, and that's one of the things why we call it Renaissance. Renaissance is a huge movement. A lot of things changed with the Renaissance. How the human body was portrayed, how we painted, and so and so. And in today's world, one of the biggest changes that was brought to art, apart from digital art, is social media. Social media is both a blessing and a curse, and it's hard to decide which one it is sometimes. One thing, social media is damn useful, damn necessary, because it really brings the world to your art. Earlier, before social media, you could just be drawing away in the corner of your world, and no one would know, apart from your family and peers. But thanks to social media today, a lot of people in the world can look at what you're doing, and it's a brilliant way to get noticed, and gain a following towards your art. I would suggest at some point you will need social media. At some point in your, you can't run away from it completely, of course, because you need to get your art out there. You need to create a following for yourself. But I would recommend, don't start too early. If you're just starting out in art, I would say don't start the social media too early, because this creates an unnecessary problem for you, because you start getting more concerned with followers, losing them, gaining them, posting weekly so that the algorithm doesn't screw you over. So these things like this, you don't want them in the back of your head when you're trying to learn. And when you're learning art, it's like you want to make it just about that. So try not to get too overwhelmed with managing your social following, gaining more followers. That shouldn't be a concern. At least when you're starting to get good at art. So that's the thing that I have to say about social media. Don't get started too early. But eventually, of course, once you're well trained, and you're confident about your art process and everything, social media is a great tool for you to to communicate your ideas to the world. And again, that's something that I really wanted to share. But more on that later, because social media is a huge monster of itself. So we are not going to delve too deep into this for now. All I can say is, don't get started with it too early. Just focus on getting good, because that's the only way social media will be useful for you. If your art is not that good, then social media, no amount of followers or social media is going to be useful for you. So, make sure that your work is good. So, yeah, we'll just stop it at there. And before we close, I just want to leave you with some learning resources. So, there are some important books that I think can help you, and some awesome courses that I found online, which is guaranteed to to get you started. So I'll just recommend. There's a ton of resources on the internet, but I'll just share with you the things that work for me. So the first one, I'll share a few websites that I personally used. Websites. Okay. The first one is Control Paint by Matt Carr. Control Paint is a free website created by this wonderful artist called Matt Carr. It's my first intro into learning art. Everything that I mean, he has his own library of free videos, which they're absolutely wonderful. Watching all those videos will give you a really solid understanding of the stuff that we already talked about. Form, perspective. He does an excellent job of explaining the basics. That you can use to get started. So I really recommend that one first. Second one is New Masters Academy. I'm a paid member of New Masters Academy, and I have to say that their stuff is like really excellent. They have some really good teachers there, like Steve Houston and Bill Perkins. Bill Perkins is the art director, who worked with Disney for 20 years. And he's out there teaching composition in New Masters Academy. Steve Houston is a master artist. He's again taught people at Disney for 20 years. And he's a fantastic artist, and he's one of the main reasons why I'm learning to grasp painting. Painting is it's a difficult process, and he's really simplified the process for me. So I hugely recommend New Masters Academy. It's not free, so you can get it for like and it's actually quite cheap considering we all eat out at least once a month. It's just that's just how much it costs. A small expensive dinner, like 2,000 rupees per month, and I think that's a fair price to pay for really excellent knowledge. And there's a ton of other stuff that comes with the subscription. You get free photographs for you to learn gesture drawing. Nude photographs, and to study figure drawing, and landscapes, photos of animals, and you all get this just for the same amount that you pay. So I think it's really worth it. And so these are the two websites. And apart from this, books. So there are some books that you can that's a must have basically. So you need to have these books once you start learning to draw. So the first one is Fun with a Pencil by Andrew Loomis. So this is actually the first book that you need to look at, because this book explains the idea of form. Remember when we talked about how to simplify objects into simple shapes, the cube, the sphere. So this book does a brilliant job of explaining that process. So this is the first book that you should be buying once you start learning art. Andrew Loomis is one of my most favorite artists. His drawings is so beautiful. So just so I really my all my training is focused on becoming at least nearly as good as him. He's a brilliant and wonderful draftsman, and his work is just so excellent. So I recommend that one. Second one is How to Draw. Draw by Scott Robertson. Scott Robertson is again an excellent artist. He's a concept artist. He's a vehicle artist, and he's written a book called How to Draw. It really reinforces you the idea of form, how to learn form, and it also introduces you the concept of perspective. He goes well into the concept of perspective and how you can use it to draw anything from your imagination. So if you want to draw a super cool sci-fi car, or anything really. So as long as you can imagine it, you can draw it using perspective. So that's the idea behind How to Draw the book, and it teaches you some really important concepts: how to draw an ellipse, and or how to draw a form or any form that you can visualize. And so that's a must-have book. I have it with me, and I learn it every day, even today, because it's not just like you read it once, close it, and it's over. You'll be going back to that book like forever, because it's just a good idea to keep referencing the old ideas back to them. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So what have I missed? So fun with a pencil, how to draw, and yeah, I think that's basically it. So this is good enough to get you just started with the idea of art, the idea of drawing. So after these books and websites are good enough to it's basically all that you need, honestly, because New Masters Academy has everything to get you covered from the beginner to the advanced artist. It has everything: drawing, painting, sculpture, and everything. And Control Paint has, apart from the free videos, they also have premium courses on perspective and light. And you don't need to learn every single resource in the internet. I'm sure there's a lot of teachers out there teaching, but you don't have to learn all of them. It's just a matter of finding the right teacher, and just sticking to that one process. That's more than good enough. And I personally, I learned from Steve Houston, I learned from Control Paint, and I learned to create my own process of how to make art. And that's good enough. You don't have to like keep scouring the internet, to learn more resources and resources. That's not the same as saying you don't need to stop learning. You will always keep learning. But you don't need, once you're aware of all the concepts and ideas, you need to, keep practicing and start learning from your own experience. Do a lot of live paintings and live drawings. And by that way, you'll be learning stuff what other people don't know. You'll learn to observe, and you'll learn something that other people didn't previously know. And you can start, teaching that to another person. So that's why we say, we never stop learning in art. And yeah, I think that's basically it. That's everything that I wanted to talk about today. I hope you found all this useful. And if you sat yourself through this 1 hour, really congratulations, because I know it's been long. And I hope it also was useful. And yeah, we can just wrap this about over here. We can wrap this up. Thank you so much again. If you found this useful, and if you have a friend who wants to get started with art, probably you can show this to them. And if you have any further inputs, please put it down in the comments. And thank you so much for joining in today. I'll see you guys again soon. Thank you.